Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast channel thing. Fun times, good all the time.
I'm always good, and that is what I stand for, being good all the time.
We're good all the time here. We have, just a reminder of the big announcement of yesterday's episode. Check that out if you missed it, which I believe I should probably actually give you I'll give you the episode number, but I won't have to. It's the one before this one, because that's how time works and counting. So I count back the number from this one, and you can check out that episode where we reveal a huge announcement and speculate what it might be to translate what we're doing onto the big screen relative to that new announcement. I won't go into much detail because it took a whole episode to unpack why specifically it was a huge announcement and the significance of it. But hey, Reeve, how did your conversation, speaking of which, how did your conversation with your mate Chris go? Was it Chris? Yeah. Reeve's friend Chris is making a movie based on the Odyssey. And we were saying, he told me that he was going to give me a call. Okay. Yeah, I could pencil him in. Sure, why not? I'll say to him,
absolutely gooped.
He'll be absolutely gooped if he does not include the key terms and ideas of the film he's making, and he's not using this new translation of the work. Well, that's the announcement. There's the announcement. There's a new translation of a key text, the Odyssey, with all of the key terms that we need to practice what we're here to practice, to learn, reflect, and share with our friends through the dialectic, to test our own vision and understanding of the different levels of self. And of course, as we've been reflecting on, there's a dialectic on the dialectic. If the dialectic is what happened to the song? It stopped. Oh no, here's a new one. If the dialectic is the art we're here to master, the art of understanding, the spiritual art, the spiritual yoga of understanding, and how we communicate most providentially with each other, our friends, and our dream maker especially, then we can break down the dialectic into its parts or aspects. There's a key word that Mr. Nolan needs in his book. He needs the word eidos, because the modern translation of the word eidos is forms, and that ain't what it is. It's aspects. Not only aspects that can be grasped with mind. So the aspects of the dialectic, here we go. The dialectic, when you explore an idea, if it exists, and also create a universe or an episode or an alternate timeline dimension, what would follow for that universe if it doesn't exist? And the idea, talk about it in relation to itself, give a definition, talk about how it functions to others, demonstration, talk about how those affected by that functioning then relate to others. How does that functioning play out in all different areas or to different sorts of people? And having been affected by that, how do those others then relate back to the subject, having gone through this chain of events? Now, this is significant because we're at the 9th oxherding picture, which is its own kind of map applied to states of mind. The different states of mind we go through in our own journey. Now, the puzzle of the ninth oxiding picture, the second last one, is you can now relate back to the source. So it sounds like this aspect or this area, this stage of the dialectic, applied to our soul's enlightenment journey, the psychic development, the learning we're here to go through as a soul. But the puzzle that we've seen, and hopefully we'll tackle this today, is the text says, well, having returned through to the source, having gone through many steps, we might as well have been blind and deaf from to begin with. Why go through all of the ignorance and confusion and pain and reincarnations into different stages of development into this or that species at this or that time, including this time where the most ignorant and pathologos ridden have claimed rulership over the many and over the better souls, giving us such things as capitalism and ICE and Nazis and perpetual war and slavery. All of the terrible implications of the worst without any knowledge, imitating knowing through belief, claiming rulership without having the knowledge that you're supposed to function skillfully through to benefit the subjects. Imagine someone who knows nothing about medicine pretending to be a doctor. That's our world, but to the soul. So why go through all this? Now, hopefully this dialectic structure that we've been learning about in our reading and thinking and communicating and wondering about how we could apply this to dream analysis, the highest use of the dialectic. How does this, can this shine light on the idea of why go through this journey? Why leave the self in some sort of experience of the self, and then through its functioning to function through the self? By the way, we could call this the second hypothesis, to experience directly self through mind, or the cognitive function of knowledge. We talk about how that's, if that's the model, its activity is, or functioning is, understanding, or the third hypothesis. What oxiding picture would that relate to? We talk about the dialectic itself being the skill and used to benefit our people, the art of understanding. Therefore, what would it be like to use this functioning in other areas? To live a life where you function through the dialectic. You relate to your dreams through the dialectic. You relate to your problems through the dialectic. You relate to your reading through the dialectic. You create blockbuster films with Reeves' friend Chris based on the dialectic. Your relationships are based on the dialectic. Your intimate relationships are based on the dialectic, love and logos. And as a result of living that kind of a life, or going through that kind of a journey, what would it be like to relate back to the source? Living this, going through our human journey, going through the learning journey. The ninth oxiding picture, the second last stage of enlightenment for the Zen Buddhists, says, Nothing. You might as well have not gone through this process. Better to have been born blind and deaf. And hey, if you reach the self, having gone through this, either in one lifetime or many, and you're just sitting alone in your house, watching the logos unfold, watching the ebbs and flows go on, then you might as well be deaf and blind right now. What a curious way of talking about reaching the source, our goal as selves, as souls, as developing beings. So maybe this question can, seeing that through the dialectic, the conclusion is, how does the other relate to self having gone through this development? Maybe there's some kind of learning and nurture that you take back with you. Well, let's not be coy about it. We're talking about it directly. The dialectic, if there's anything you're bringing back with you, would be the learning and mastery of the dialectic, or the logos, which is the inherent intelligibility of the self. Does that help us with our question about the ninth oxiding picture? So this is what you do for if the subject you're exploring exists, if beauty exists, if it's a real thing, if mind exists, if the logos exists, if this new movie that Reeve and his friend Chris are going to make based on the Odyssey. I will become executive director so long as I get a portion of the profits. On the back end, I want some points on the back end, please. And if you don't give me points on the back end, I say...
Fuck.
Yes, okay, I say that. But also you have to create, to explore the idea of beauty, you have to, this would be the dialectic, you'd have to also do the same for if it doesn't exist. Now what we have seen is, hey, the first hypothesis of the Parmenides is the one self, the source. And you can map the second, mind, divine luminosity. The third, it's functioning through each gap in a providential or an intelligent and caring way that we can participate in so long as we're learning the dialectic and applying it. That's the third hypothesis. The fourth is it's shadow, or people relating not to self, but as others relating to others in a world of division caused by the cognitive function of belief. So there's where belief is, the fourth hypothesis. And of course, one way of understanding these is, well, if knowing is the model or ousia all at once, and the logos or its parts is understanding, its use, then the imitation of knowing is what believers do. What Trump's pretend, like that was Trump's whole campaign. They're all these politicians are scammers and liars and grifters and con artists, and everyone says, yeah, we know, but I'm different. I'm a business dude. And all they do is pretend to know stuff. And literally in his first campaign, he said, I can do that. I can pretend to know shit I don't. I can sound all presidential. Oh, the Dow Jones, and it's for, what's the sort of things they're saying to justify the murder they're doing currently? It's for national security. We need to kill people and steal their shit and enslave American citizens and create concentration camps for their national security interests. Believers imitate knowing. So there's the fake model, belief. Keeps us stuck in our problems of the zombie virus, and its activity or functioning is other than self. People who spend their lives trying to convince themselves and others that there is no mind, there is no meaning, there is no purpose, everything is just physical stuff, get your bag while you can, and that's it. We all just, I don't know, nothing happens when we die. There's no point to anything. Call that strict dualism, materialism, empiricism. Hey, Stoicism would fall under that. The most popular philosophy on the internet, on YouTube. So and each of those 4 cognitive functions or stages of development, which has that line of symmetry. Above the line you have self, logos, and ousia, or mind. Below the line you have none of those things. So below the line you're in your pathologos, because the pathologos is the sick way of thinking or belief against the logos. Its state of mind, or ousia, as we've just said, isn't actual knowingness, but the imitation cosplaying the knower. And of course, without the actual knowledge of the art and the skill of understanding to apply it, you can't actually help anyone. That's why religious people and right-wing politicians and capitalist scumbags are not helping anyone ever. They're just making everything worse and killing people. But not only just killing people, because you can't do benefit through belief. You can't believe your way into fixing your computer. You can't believe your way into knowing how to fly a plane. You need knowledge and understanding. And you need to apply it to care for the computer, to care for the patients if you're a doctor, to care for the passengers if you're a pilot. Can't do any of that here with belief. So this is what we call ICE, or the Nazis. What do they do if they're blocked from learning? They take the infliction of suffering, which any idiot can do. They take that as a mark of knowing. Knowing is power. I saw that on a video game once. Knowledge is power. The power over people. The power to hurt people. That's why cruelty is the point for capitalism or billionaires, for the right wing, and also the left wing, who are also in the pockets of the same billionaires. More in this category than the other one. Religion, of course. Killing people because Pope says so. For them, cruelty is the point. So a line of symmetry, our purpose as a human species and individuals, because whether like it or not, as children, we all accept a false belief. So there's our pathologos, negative states of minds and way of beings. That's our pathologos in opposition to the logos. Our way of being, our belief-based way of being in opposition to true ousia and knowledge. And all of that is tied to an image of the self in opposition to the true self. So it's a line of symmetry, like looking in the mirror. Everything that your left hand is doing is the opposite, because it's your right hand doing it in reality. So we could call this a 4th dimensional movement. Because the movement of the 4th dimension, the 3rd dimension, is like this might be a bit complicated. Okay, if you've seen like a video representation of a 4-dimensional cube, maybe on YouTube or something, Tesseract or something, not Tesseract, there's a name for it, can't remember what it is. You might notice it's a cube that seems to be turning in upon itself, like a glove turning inside out. So everything is reversed. So in the world of our current world, we have the most ignorant people, the believers, in charge of the best people and the many. We're completely opposite in the 3rd dimension. In the 4th dimension, or in a just world, the best people who are interested in understanding, dialectic, the most rational, the most caring, empathetic, they would be in charge. Currently, it's the opposite. So that's the line that we are here to cross as individual souls who pick up your own false beliefs from culture and your family and parents. To cross this line into the logos. Following the logos, we could call that. The oxiding pictures would describe that as the movement maybe from the second oxiding picture to the third. Because it's the 3 to 10 that are the enlightenment stages, and the first 2 are stages of ignorance, and here we have ignorance down here. The hypothesis, it's the movement from the 4th to the 3rd. Now, also what Parmenides includes, so there we have a nice way of seeing where we would fit, therefore, the oxiding pictures. 1 and 2 would be below this line, and 3 to 10 would be above. So 1, 2, 3 hypotheses. Now, Socrates pointed out, as we've been reading, that for Parmenides also does this side. What if the one self doesn't exist? So each of these is a denial of its opposite. But something really interesting happens is, if you have this position, let's take the bottom one, you are other from self, but this is a world where there is no divine or mind or self. We're just a physical experience. So we're other from the physical experience, just like here in the 5th, you're other than self or mind. Its rejection is you're other from anything. Nihilism. The lowest possible way of thinking about self and reality. But if you understand that position, you'll see how it implies or necessitates this. So in understanding each of these, you see the necessity of the opposite. And of course we see, well, actually, hang on a second. If these two are a distorted reflection of those, then any of these 2 stages of ignorance imply the necessity of wisdom as its cause or reflection. But also we're seeing, hang on a second, if this is the divine luminosity of mind or self knowing itself as mind, then that implies the existence of its source or self. Or what we're seeing as the movement from the 8th oxiding picture to 9. So through understanding, we can make movements. Either this kind of a movement across from the negative to the positive, a stepwise movement, to see that, for instance, if you're here, you say, well, I'm an atheist or I'm a materialist. There is no mind. Or there is something, there are some principles of mind, but if there is a God, he surely doesn't care about us, that kind of thing. Hang on a second, is there some belief you're operating with? Because if you say that there's no mind you can connect with, then you're not speaking from knowing. You just said you can't, if knowing is here and you're rejecting it, there must be where did you get that belief? Who convinced you of this? So you can move to the belief that was a functioning of. So there's a kind of stepwise movement you can make, but also we saw, hang on a second, wasn't there a symmetrical reflection here as well? So if you take these believers singing Kumbaya to Jeebas in belief here, and maybe you introduce them to something like meditation or yoga or what we do here, they might be open to, seeing as they already believe in some divine, they might be open to experiencing it directly, not just waiting until they die and go to heaven, because they see through the insanity of that way of thinking. So you can make a jump like that. So there's at least this jump, stepwise movement, and a jumping to its symmetrical as possible ways of moving through a map of psychic and human, well, not just human, but human especially, any intelligent species, but kinds of movement you can make through the map of soul development. That's the significance of what we're reading. And what the Socrates is pointing to in the text so far is what you might want to do is attach these 9, the one self, and these 4, if it exists, if the one self exists, and these 4, so 9 in total. You might want to attach the 9 hypotheses of Parmenides, which is a complete dialectic of all of the possible stages of being understood, with what it feels like, and what it feels like for a soul seeking its own development or enlightenment in the ox-herding pictures. You might want to link them together. That's what we've been doing. So, the structure of the dialectic or the logos that we're here to master. That, by the way, good luck telling anyone that. We've been speaking about Christopher Nolan movies, and the significance of him as an analogy is if somebody watched Inception and said, hey, by the way, they watched the movie and then they got the twist at the end and they thought, hang on a second, maybe Leonardo DiCaprio is the one that's been dreaming. And they applied themselves to watching the film a second time, and everything they learnt from the cursory reading, from the normal narrative, they applied to this twist or puzzle. They might see for themselves that there is a hidden meaning. But if you haven't gone through this yourself and you say to grandma, hey grandma, that movie that you loved, oh yes, sonny, it was a lovely movie. I liked the pretty young woman who made the mazes. I hope she meets a good man one day. And you say, Nanu, calm your ass down. That wasn't the meaning of the movie. Actually, the meaning was this. She'll say, you are a very smart and handsome boy, but you have some funny ideas. I think we gave you too much Tylenol as a child. In other words, you have to see it for yourself. That's the significance of us reading. So us saying, oh yeah, this is the art of dialectic that we're here to master. Among its highest usages is to apply it to the levels of possible ways of understanding one, or self, because self is a kind of a one. In other words, if your highest idea of one is the 4th hypothesis, it's a oneness of parts, like singing Kumbaya in church, or praise dear leader at a Trump rally. Or whatever is the family way of being that you get from childhood. Bitching about women these days, if you're one of those families. But if your highest idea of one is down here, or a physical one over here, or you don't even think there is such a thing as one down here, then that would be your limit of what kind of a one the self is. So that would come with a way of thinking, a way of reasoning, especially about yourself. So one of the highest ways of using this dialectic we're here to master is to nail down the 9 hypotheses of Parmenides, to understand all of the possible ways of thinking, states of being that are possible as individual souls, as cultures, as epochs that we go through as a culture, as a race. Kinds of religions and cults and isms, Marxism and communism and all that. You can nail it down in a complete map. Arrange it hierarchically to determine which is good and which is bad. You don't want to be a fence-sitting centrist and say, I don't think there's any difference between Nazism and Marxism. Everything is nothing. That's one of these hypotheses over here. Rejection of mind, so likely one of these. So one of the highest ways you can use the dialectic we're here to learn is to create a map of states of ways of thinking, states of mind, and development that intelligent beings can go through. That's what we get from Parmenides. Socrates is his teacher, and equally so, what we are doing is, what's that noise mean? Oh, Discord. It's video day. There's like 3 streamers I follow. And one of them does videos on a Sunday, which is cool for me because I play music on a Friday and Saturday quite late if I can. And so it's a nice decompress day on Sunday for me. And I catch up on some songs that I might not have learnt or played well. But that doesn't start for an hour, so we've got some time. Okay. Tangent.
Jesus is gonna come down and wipe this place out. Who cares?
Hey, even though it was a tangent, don't be so dramatic.
It's sad. And I'm sad for you.
And I'm sad for you for being so dramatic. Jesus is gonna wipe this place out. Come on. Yes, the ox-herding pictures, which is a description of what it feels like. And by the way, the ox-herding pictures were originally for gurus to judge your student's stage of development. So while we can understand the stages of development with the ox-herding pictures and understand it for ourselves by applying this dialectic structure to it, we can also apply the dialectic to each one of the ox-herding pictures. That's what we've been doing a mini dialectic. What have you encountered by definition? What did it feel like? It's functioning, or how does that thing you've encountered demonstrated as a state of being? How does that function in whatever area, division? And how does it conclude? Does it anticipate the next stage? Is there a hint of the next stage beyond the ox-herding picture? And of course, what we've been doing along the way, because we are good humans doing our job with the dialectic and having fun.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder?
We have been recognizing, hang on a second, for each of those, there could be a rejection. Now, we've only really been doing the last one because often it's the last part of the last sentence or two of the ox-herding pictures which anticipate the next. But some of them are worded where it's quite obvious that there would be its block. For instance, if you have a glimpse of mind, which again is above this line of self, mind, and understanding, which is also providence, the first, second, and third hypotheses, you have a glimpse. But the end of which is the third ox-herding picture, you might say, well, it finishes with, what artist could possibly portray that thing I've had a glimpse of? And of course, that could go either way. What artist could portray it? I want to be such an artist to nail down what I've experienced in understanding and integrate it, leading you onto the fourth ox-herding picture. But you could equally say, what artist could portray it? Surely none. It is ineffable. Can't be effed. So, and of course, people say that all the time. But then we could identify them. Oh, you're in the third ox-herding picture. Oh, and we also need know what we need to do to help you progress. If you are, to go back to the hypotheses, rejecting understanding, we might help you reflect on the belief that has convinced you that you can't understand what you had a glimpse of. Midwifery. Freeing you up to progress. Now, so 4 stages of what is, equally to what isn't. The highest application, the hypotheses of Parmenides, and the ox-herding pictures. Bridging the gap between the two of them is our exercise that we've been working on, because this book is such a goddamn banger and the book told us to do it. Just like Christopher Nolan tells us to watch the movie again with the twist in mind. But there are other applications of the dialectic. In fact, we could do a dialectic on the dialectic. If the first category, let's use my pen. I'm using the mouse. Let's use the pen. They always say the pen is mightier than the mouse. Where's my bottom chin? My bottom. Why? What happened? Oh, I've lost. I've lost access. Let me see if I can.
This guy had to admit that the people in his life who helped convince him to be a conservative in the first place, parents, clergy.
The problem is that you can't reason someone out of position that they didn't themselves.
What happened? Pause. Unpause. So, here we are. Oh, fuck me. But now I've lost this USB. Okay, pause again. All right, we're back. So, dialectic on the dialectic, real quick, seeing as we had to take a bit of a pause, champ. The self in relation to itself. Another way of saying that is definition, or what's true. That's philosophy. That's our reading. And what we're learning the dialectic to organize our reading to match the level of mind of the author and of the main character Socrates. So that's the application of the dialectic to reason through arguments or puzzles to reach truth. Debate, of course, is its distortion or ignorance, which is why in a inversely reflected physical world of mind, where we face all the injustices in the world, that's what the politicians do. They fucking yell at each other in debate and just do fucking childish nonsense, which is a distraction from what's really going on behind the scenes, people grifting for money and power. So the dialectic is how we reach truth. The midwifery is our highest demonstration because it removes what's false. It's a functioning of that dialectic we learn to apply it to what's false. That's removing what's false, or the dialectic in philosophical midwifery. The greatest kind of functioning. The most important thing we can do. Of course, you can't do one without the other, so... and of course, both, or division, dream analysis. Dream analysis seems to be a necessary component, as we've been learning all the way through the text we've been reading, as a guide for being able to do both. It talks about your high states of mind here and your low states of mind here. It gives you dramas that unfold the... So you could... Each one is a dialectic. Like the oxiding pictures. In a dream to do with what's true, it'll give you a high state of mind. And you will encounter objects or things that are profound in a high state of mind that will unfold as a kind of drama to a kind of conclusion that will be positive or success usually. So those are the four things we've been looking for in the oxiding pictures, or the dialectic. Dreams will also give you the same thing, but the opposite. A negative, or furniture that point to, furniture metaphor, analogies that point to a negative state of mind that unfolds negatively to a failure. So the dialectic applied to truth we talked about. Learning the dialectic from our reading and specifically applying it to the hypotheses of Parmenides to get a map of our development, and the oxiding pictures and link the two together, link understanding and states of mind together. Also, we've been reading the Orange Sutra, the Orange book, the midwifery book. But also what Socrates has been saying is, hey, you guys got to write the next book on the dream analysis. Because no one's written it yet. And finally, sharing it. After having gone through this process, how do you relate back to the dialectic, having mastered it? You share it, you use it, either functioning as a dialectician yourself, or, as we've been talking about, create Hollywood blockbuster films where you use mythology to represent all of the things that you've been learning along the way. Because it's entertaining and engaging. And people will say, what will they say? They'll say this.
Jesus is gonna come down and wipe this place out. Who cares?
No, they won't say that.
You have the brain of a child if you think
Child,
that.
if you think that. They will say,
I'm too pure.
they'll say,
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder?
and we'll say here, because
Cool as a cuke.
we're cool as a cuke. And then they will say,
My head is quite large
Quite
and filled
large.
with secrets.
and filled with secrets. Because that's one of the puzzles that we've been learning from the text. Both Jesus and Socrates are saying, hey, well, this is all well and good and true and beneficial and necessary for any stage of development, any culture, species. The problem is people aren't going to be interested unless it's entertaining. Especially since that they are convinced they already know themselves. So why would they go ahead and learn all the stuff that you learn here on this channel? Unless it's fun and engaging with funny sound drops.
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
So disgusting.
Jesus is gonna come down and wipe this place out. Who cares?
That's all he says today. Aaron Brown is obsessed with Jesus wiping us out.
Please end kink shaming on your show.
That's what I've been saying, Emma. So, and of course, that will go under the film that Christopher Nolan is making, The Odyssey. And what we have, we've just got our hands on the first translation of The Odyssey that's been decent. So we can infer that Mr. Nolan has been working from a bastardized translation because the translators haven't been going through these stages themselves, because it's the whole idea, you can't translate something one theory is, if you know ancient Greek, you'll be able to translate anything. Give someone a medical textbook, and so long as they know the language, they'll be able to translate it for you. Bollocks. If you're not doing the kind of reading that we're doing, if you're not doing midwifery, if you're not doing dream analysis, and you're not sharing it as a dialectician, you can't translate the text. But we have a translation now of the Odyssey that has been translated properly, which has the key words. So all of the techniques we've been talking about, twist puzzles that the reader solves, which is itself a reflection of dream analysis. The greatest possible filmmaker ever is your dream master. You can't do that if you're missing all of the key terms. So the big announcement from yesterday is we have the key terms now. We can play the game. One of the few texts which reflect the logos and the ideas of self and what it's like for a soul to go through its development. Finally have a text where we can actually see that ourselves. All the more reason for us to nail down the map in the hypotheses and the oxherding pictures so we can better read the Odyssey that we've got the first 5 books of ourselves. And then we can watch Christopher Nolan's movie. Now, he could be very humble and good, and we will say of him...
Do a poggers,
and employ Reeve and myself to be consultants, executive producers, and give us points on the back end. And when I say on the back end... Wait... I can't press my buttons anymore. I don't mean that. And then this button.
You have the brain of a child if you think that.
If you think something's dirty, you've got a brain of a child.
You just blow in from Stupid Town.
And
it's a total shit show.
And you're a total shit show. Points on the back end means we get money that you can use to buy Bugattis. That's what it's all been about. So unless he does that, we can ourselves read the Odyssey and compare it to his, and we can give a scathing review on Reddit. Go to Reddit and we'll give it a thumbs down. And no one will understand it but our friends who've been reading with us. So, mythology. As one of the 4 aspects, or eidos, one of those key words we haven't been able to read in the Odyssey or Socrates or Plato until now, with this one Balboa translator. Mythology, dream analysis. We want to write that book as well ourselves. We're reading the midwifery book, and what we're doing here is philosophy. Ideally, the hypotheses and the oxiding pictures, bringing us back to where we are now. Hooray, we got there. So let me just check on my other streamer. Pause chant. Okay, so let's jump into the text. I can't use my buttons, but I can click it. There we go, here's the text. So the puzzle is, why go through that process of the dialectic only to have that last stage? Now, that last stage we have just seen, the last stage of the dialectic, is as a result of the definition, beauty itself, we can see how this definition then functions to another. How does beauty function? Or having the model of knowledge in any art, knowledge of medicine, knowledge of flying a plane, but for us, the highest kind of knowledge, because you could hierarchically arrange kinds of knowledge, us having the highest kind of knowledge, knowledge of self, how could we function with it? Understanding or providence. Skillfully use that knowledge to benefit the subject. Currently, it's the opposite. They have no knowledge and they don't give 2 shits about religion, don't give 2 shits about the foot soldiers they send into war, neither do politicians, and as much as parents love their children, because their idea of love is based on a belief, they prevent the child's development for belief-based clan loyalty within the family tradition, which reflects their own grandparents' ignorance and their parents all the way back to the cave. So it's just the way it is. Again, good luck telling people that unless they've been learning themselves, because yeah, otherwise they'll say, not my parents, they were saints. Not my religion. I actually believe the true kinds of Jeebus. He was American, says Joseph Smith and the Mormons. You can tell because we wear magic underpants. How's that a thing? So, easy to see in other people, hard to see for yourself. That's why we have friends, to help us along the way. So as a result of having been affected by that functioning, we can function to others to others. And as a result, we can relate back to the original idea with the dialectic in our back pocket, and applied that to these aspects of the dialectic. Having gone through this journey, we can tell stories, do stand-up, create analogies to represent everything we've been learning through analogies, make films. Now, notice none of this is in the 9th ox-herding picture. That's the puzzle. Why go through this learning to return to the source, only to be as though you were blind and deaf? Let's read it one more time. Let's pull it up on the screen. There we go. So we've gone... I need to find a better way of sitting. I'll turn up my fan as well. So hot! It's a bazillion degrees up in here at the moment. Reaching the source. Too many steps we have taken to return to the source. To the root and source. Better to have been blind and deaf from the beginning. Why did we even leave the self? We have some clues from what we've just reflected about the dialectic. Dwelling in one's true abode. You reached it. Unconcerned with and without. But over there are rivers that flow tranquilly, and there are other things like flowers that are going through a blossoming or learning or developing process. Nothing to do with us. Returning to the source. From the very beginning, there has not been so much as a speck of dusk to mask the intrinsic purity of the self. And we've been looking at that today, actually, by recognizing that there are these lines of symmetry. Well, we're applying it to the dialectic. So if we have the... notice, the first hypothesis isn't the self that exists. It transcends existence. It's the source or root of existence. So a dialectic on self starts from the second part, stage 2. So the second hypothesis is the experience of knowing, or ousia, where you can have the greatest definition by looking at self in the mirror. The self that is. To say there is no such a thing, over here. We said the second is knowing, and its functioning or demonstration is the third hypothesis, which is the intelligible care or providence that's being bestowed at every moment between each microsecond or frame that we perceive through time. We perceive like a film, speaking of Christopher Nolan.
You have the brain of a child if you... Unbelievable.
Jesus Christ, Emma, this is not Opie and Anthony or whatever the hell.
You're a baby. You're a little baby.
Quit fighting, you guys. So, the gap between each frame is the functioning of self and mind providentially understanding. It's third hypothesis. Now, that's the line we have to cross. That's why we can call the subject, or the true education, or the new way of being for humanity that we need necessarily, as philodianoia, the love of understanding, because that's the line of evolution, or the line of symmetry. Because the fourth hypothesis or belief is a imitation, cosplaying the knower. Be it the guy in the funny hat, the Pope, the Imam, the Rabbi. Ever notice how there are hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of people, or thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, all with completely different and opposing, divided opinions about what's true? All of them seem to say that God's highest vision is that they should be the rulers for some reason. But we're too fucking stupid. We haven't yet learned understanding to realize that's that's absurd. Why do we allow it? Because all of these things are used to oppress people. Belief. Ever noticed that people come in with Bibles to the poorest, most vulnerable communities? I have. So, it's a line of symmetry, the fourth and the fifth. So there are strict divisional stages. Between each stage, you could say they're incommensurate, or there's a jump. Understanding is very different from knowing everything all at once. And that greatest experience is very different than that which is the transcends experience. So that's what we can see as, to make sense of what we just read, not even a speck of dust. If the cause of existence, self, is this existence, or is, as this Venn diagram circle, there is this overlay, and there is its ignorance, anything below all of these hypotheses. Down here, sad face, there is this part of self that transcends necessarily, that can't be touched. Can't be, what's the word? What are we reading? Not even a speck of dust can mar its brilliance. Now let me just hit my record button for my video day. I'll watch it later. Download. There we go. Not so much as a speck of dust could mask the intrinsic purity of the root or source. Self. Notice, there is no word self. We're carrying that from the hypotheses. So the hypotheses, or the logos, or the dialectic, can allow us to apply understanding to a Buddhist tradition that lacks it, or has some level of understanding, but without the certain keywords that we have been learning about, they're not going to completely nail everything down. Which is our complaint of Christopher Nolan, which is why we're going to make all of those nasty Reddit comments. Slamming the movie. Movie hasn't come out yet. We're going to pre-slam the movie. So in the future, we will seem like prophets. What do you think about that?
Wrong. You're so wrong.
So
But that's
wrong.
okay. We're all allowed to be wrong sometimes.
Okay. Well, then I don't feel so bad.
Gooners.
Hey, I'm not a gooner.
Cool as a cuke.
That's better. So, he observes, notice, passive, observing the waxing and waning of life. So we do have some level of insight, perhaps from everything we have gone in our own development. We can see the development of other things around us, like the waxing and waning of life in the world, and while abiding unassertively, another passive kind of a word, in a state of unshakable serenity. We're fine. We have our state of self. Serene. This waxing and waning is no phantom or illusion. So we're not in those negative hypotheses. But we've recognized it as a manifestation of source. For us, the one or the self, or the one self. Two words used to describe the same thing, the one thing. And that, ironically, is not a thing. It's the cause of things. Why then is there a need to strive for anything? Sit in your hut. The waters are blue and the mountains are green. Alone with himself, he observes things endlessly changing, going through its stages of development, seeing perhaps the inherent justice of how things unfold. By the way, if you were Hitler's doctor back in the 1920s or 10s or something, would you let the scalpel slip? Or would some other character fill his role as part of a necessary waxing and waning or unfolding of reality for humanity to learn the lessons it needs to learn? Maybe the perpetual victim complex of a certain race. Perhaps the duty among everything complex of a certain cultural pathologos of another race. Or culture, let's say. Not race, culture. What if we could see the whole thing? Necessary? To see a justice in reality? Do we seek justice? He has returned to the origin, what we are calling self. Come back to the source, but his steps have been taken in vain. Why? It is as though he's now blind and deaf, just alone in his hut. So everything we have been reflecting on, mythology, conclusion here as a result of going through the dialectic learning, the mythology of this blockbuster film, we're getting all of the points on the back end for me, as a consultant executive producer, and Reeve, because he's going to hook me up with Christopher Nolan. He keeps telling me how he's his best friend and everything. So I'll give him a few dollars. Buy yourself something nice, I'll say. And he'll say,
Cool as a cuke.
cool as a cuke.
The more holes, the better.
Calm down, you're not that rich. It's the same, more holes. Yep, definitely. See, he agrees. He's agreeable. So I'll slip another C note into his front pocket for being agreeable. And I'll say,
I think it's awesome.
I think it's awesome. So all of that we've been reflecting on ain't there in the 9th ox-herding picture. Seated in his hut, he hankers not for the things outside. Streams meander on of themselves, and red flowers naturally bloom red. Now we've recognized already that the theme is the last line seems to be the indicator of the next. So what's it indicate? There are streams moving. There is movement. And it seems to be a reflection of source, or a manifestation of source. And there are things blossoming and blooming. So it's not just movement. There is a developmental growing process, a blossoming, which means perfection or excellence or purpose. Only we're not playing a role. Okay, that leads us into the last ox-herding picture. But before we do that, cliffhanger. Let's go back to Socrates' account of his own philosophical journey, because that might help us, as it's helped us along the way so far. Listen to a sound drop while I find the place.
Personality maxing requires you to look inward on a deeper level, and it's harder to fix because then you have to make fundamental changes to who you are as a person. And it's because it feels like a much more core component of themselves that they don't want to change. Like, it's like, well, then if I change this, who am I?
Who am I? That's what we're figuring out. Yeah, personality maxing. All right, so here we go. So here we've covered the hypotheses so far. So we've got one more time, really briefly. Socrates was indoctrinated with all this heaven and hell, good versus evil, punishing the wicked, and that's all you can do. Just get the guns and blow up the bad people. Only a gun in the hand of a good person can end the life of a bad person, or some bullshit. That's also within our souls. Endless battle with your dark side and your light side. No meaning, no development, no learning, garbage. But then he encountered a musician who was able to participate in and be enchanted by a beauty that moved his soul. There was a functioning through the musician's understanding of the hierarchically ordered and arranged, harmoniously arranged parts of music. And to participate in that, the musician themselves reached out and were touched by something wondrous, bringing into being something beautiful from somewhere unknown even to themselves. He posited that there must be a kind of higher kind of order that music was itself a reflection of. And then he had the positive end of that ox-herding picture. He seeked the ox. He went looking. He found a beautiful young lady who spoke with reason and intelligence and said, hey, by the way, Xenophanes, Parmenides' teacher's quote, it's the whole of God that sees, hears, and it's the whole of God that sees, thinks, and hears right now. And so Socrates hang on a second, I could reflect on what it is that's experiencing shapes and colors, sounds and thoughts as a whole. Instead of getting wrapped up in the specifics, grasping or rejecting things, I could just look at what's perceiving. In doing so, that's a kind of ousia. Now, what we have been recognizing is each stage of development is marked by a different kind of self-reflection. The hypotheses are all different ideas of self. So when someone is reflecting on themselves in a new kind of way, and they're aware of that, that marks a stage of development. Which is important because we want to function through the dialectic, help our friends and loved ones, and ourselves. So we want to know not only the map of the hypotheses and ox-herding pictures, but how can we recognize someone has made a transition? They're reflecting on themselves in a new way. Ousia. It's all different levels of ousia, reflection and awareness of self. So in doing so, Socrates reflected on himself and realized that he's not a god at war with himself, driving a terrible fury within the soul. That's bollocks. It was a one. What kind of a one? That's what we're finding out. He continued to learn and came across Heraclitus, who said, wisdom is to know the intelligence by which all things are steered through all things. There is a paradigm or map that's knowable. Interesting. I thought wisdom was about appearing intelligent, says the mainstream. Some people say, oh no, wisdom is about how to grift the stock market to get your bag. Nope. Wisdom, according to Heraclitus, says Socrates, is to know the intelligence or the paradigm through which all things are steered. This idea of a one intrigued him, and he tracked down Parmenides, who was there with Zeno, his student, and got the dialectic. And he realized that the method of our development is the dialectic, of course. We've been talking about that today. And to know the mind through the mind is to realize the very source of mind. Now, we've recognized there are two kinds of sources. Intelligence itself, second hypothesis, and the first, which is the self. Now, Jesus asks, did Plato capture Parmenides' vision? And now he continues and say, hey, by the way, the idea of self, this is the idea of true philosophy. It's different ideas of self. Therefore, we're saying, we're going to put in the email to Mr. Christopher Nolan, you can't do a Hollywood blockbuster on the Odyssey if you don't translate the word altos as self, because that's what the whole thing is about. That's what true philosophy is about, because it's exploring the different ideas of self. Now, the story of a hero's journey, like the Odyssey, is a soul moving through those stages. So you better not just have the idea of self, you better be nailing down the stages, like in the hypotheses and ox-herding picture, and adding what we just saw today, that a different stage of development is marked by a different kind of ousia. So you need the word ousia, that ain't in any other translations that you got, my friend, so that you can move through the different ideas of self in your development. That's what the hero's journey is. That's what the book's about, if it's true philosophy. So the idea of self, exploring that is true philosophy, seeing it for yourself through the method of the dialectic. And therefore the highest idea of self is what can be said of a pure one. It can also be said of the self. So a transcendent one, no qualities, or as the ninth hypothesis, a ninth ox-herding picture puts it, not a speck of dust can mar its purity, or whatever it said. Transcends experience. Now, it functions as luminosity, or the definition of mind. Second hypothesis. By the way, those things function between the gap in every moment, because in that gap there is an outpouring of divine providential nature whose source is the one self. Understanding, or the third hypothesis. And all of this he's getting through the dialectic, by the way. So the fourth hypothesis, those who are stuck in a wall of belief, clinging to a shadow. We talked about that today. The symmetry or its reflection, distorted shadow. And the distorted shadow of understanding is to use your thinking or understanding to deny the existence of self, mind, and understanding. That's the fifth. Or dualism. Dualism. There is a body and a mind, and never the twain shall meet. And Socrates said, no, I realized that was empty. Because the true disconnection was to realize that the source transcends experience. It's not that it's unknowable, it transcends knowing. So it's still recognizable by self. Which is the ninth ox-herding picture. And then he gave us those negatives which we talked about today, which is the dialectic applied to if it doesn't exist, showing that, hey, by necessity, those things you deny have to exist if you do a dialectic on that position. So the denial of the fifth hypothesis is nihilism. Not only is there no connection between mind and body, there isn't even body. But if you go through the arguments of that, or the reasoning of that through the dialectic, you'll see how that actually proves that thing you're trying to deny. So the negative hypotheses, giving us all 9. The 1 at the top, the 4 positive, and the 4 negative. Wow, says Jesus, and wow says this guy. Owen Wilson, I think his name is. Yes, it is. And his brothers. Following the logos, that's wondrous. By the way, did the idea of the gap become a mean term for what you sought to understand? If these are the Parmenides' hypotheses, would you state it once more? That's where we are right now. Let's keep reading. Press the keep reading button. Parmenides showed Socrates that it was only through negatives that one could understand that the one is beyond all predicates. We've done a little bit of an explanation of this because all of our key terms that we've experienced directly in the 8th ox or the second hype are not applied to the self because it transcends it. So one way of understanding the first hypothesis is it's not a whole of parts, but it's not a part of wholes. So it's neither whole, neither parts. But we have discovered in our own work from this text, there is another way of understanding it. If the self is up here, it might not be if this is whole and this is part, it might not be a whole of parts. But is there a different kind of a whole that only applies to the source? That's a puzzle we are carrying. He brought me to see that the dynamic inherent in the experience of beauty touches upon truth. Ooh, touches upon, and was intelligible. You can experience it, you can know it. You can know the divine. Most interestingly, he then brought me to realize that in every instantaneous moment, there is participation in and from that reality from which all change occurs. So it touches upon truth, it's intelligible, it's reality. It can be participated in. What's he giving us? He's giving us, like a good Christopher Nolan movie, clues for you to solve the puzzle. There's a bunch of terms that describe knowing. It's a dynamic. It's inherent within. So that's the key word, eidos, the inherent aspects within this experience that can be intellectually distinguished. It's beauty. Beauty lives there. That's where beauty itself is. Truth, intelligible, can be participated in. Reality. So you're getting a bunch of terms. Your job is to pull them out yourself, write them down, and arrange them, which is talking about beauty itself, which is talking about how it functions, which is talking about how that functioning relates to other things, and which talks about how you can then, having been affected, relate back to the source of mind in a new kind of a way. That's the dialectic. By the way, have we covered things in the text which deny each of those? Could you create a negative or the universe if it doesn't? He's giving you the tools to play for your own enlightenment. In other words, this map we've been learning about, he's giving you the literal activity, the method of the dialectic to prepare your mind for your own development. And now that we've been learning the map, you can have an awareness of your own development. You can have an awareness of the map or paradigm you're moving through. So the dialectic, you don't just have to take as faith. Maybe it will work and change my state of mind. No, you've got the map now, buddy. Now, you haven't verified it yet, but you can now. So it's giving you what you need to follow that map that we have just recognized as one of the most important uses of the single art we're here to master, the dialectic. So it can be participated in, it's reality, and it's from which all change occurs. So hey, is that a functioning? Is that division, or is that demonstration? You pick. And write it down. I found here in this wondrous dialectic. See? He's telling you this is why it's a fucking banger. This book is so awesome. This book, we say,
the primary purpose of pools is not to murder. It is for...
Kant would say some fucking bullshit.
Kant would say some bullshit, but about this, it's a banger.
This is why I love this channel, man.
And
imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
Improving for the better. So he's giving you the clue. Use the dialectic. Hint, hint, wink, wink. I'm even going to emphasize it with the word wondrous. So I found here, maybe you can find here, if you apply this wondrous dialectic of Parmenides we've been learning about, that the moment is the gap. Third hypothesis, that reflects the providential nature. So you got another key term. Is that the functioning of the second? Of the divine. Another key word you can throw into your dialectic on the second, on pure mind. So the gap is that which is beyond time. Time lords. We can be time lords, all of us. Think of the Marvel movie we can make about philosophers. Beyond time, and is continuously unfolding that which must be as it is. So that's what we talked about today. The idea of, would you let the scalpel slip if you were Hitler's doctor, or must there be a necessity for the unfolding guided by some higher intelligence and providence for our learning, for a certain Jewish culture to learn what it means to be a perpetual victim, which is a part of their cultural pathologos. Cry bullying they're playing out now as they do a genocide. Didn't learn the lesson. The Germans, duty above all. Did we learn the lesson, or are we playing out the Nazi game again in America right now? Is there a necessity for that to wake us up to what we have to learn? If there wasn't a Trump, would there be another guy? Was there a George Bush comedically ignorant puppet fool in his place before him? Yep, there was. So there is an unfolding through the gap into time, something that must be as it is. This is one of the key ideas for justice. Justice, fairness. There's an excellence or fairness unfolding. Not criminal justice, but a necessity that we're looking for as intelligent beings. We want to see how the world is fair. He also showed that those views I had formerly been exposed to, heaven and hell and you're a sinner and nothing is meaningful, just do as you're told, could be grasped simply by his fourth hypothesis. There we have the pathologos, or religious belief, or cultural milieu belief, as we've been talking about with different cultures facing the drama played out in history. That's simply the fourth hypothesis. What would happen if we understood it? Would we have to continue playing it out ignorantly? Or would we be learning what the whole purpose for their existence is to understand the fourth? Now a relief came to me, says Socrates, as I saw these forms or views as merely another view of the one. What have we been saying? All of these hypotheses are different ideas of the one, and you could apply that one to anything, because anything that you reflect on is a one. One thing, one chicken, different from my coffee mug, which is a different one. One is a intelligence and likes to drink my coffee. Sneaky.
Oh my fuck.
Oh my fuck, that's my coffee. One doesn't have intelligence and is passive while I slurp from it. So anything you can apply this idea of one to. Most importantly, most meaningfully, and most immediate, the first distinction we make. Hey, I want to have a drink, so I have to myself drink the coffee and stop chicken from drinking the coffee. We apply our idea of one to ourselves primarily, immediately, most fundamentally. So all of these ideas of one, so far he's got the first, second, third, fourth, that's what we're up to right now, also applies to the self. So if you are a fourth hypothesis believer, you don't say, there is this theory about Jesus. No, you say, I am a Christian. That's your highest idea of one that you would therefore apply to yourself. So you would go kicking and screaming into a reflection on the very cause of your own ignorance and suffering and the blight on humanity. Whatever false belief that you and your culture or your family or your religion or your political group identify self with, which is that quote from earlier.
Personality maxing requires you to look inward on a deeper level, and it's harder to fix because then you have to make fundamental changes to who you are as a person. And it's because it feels like a much more core component of themselves that they don't want to change. Like, it's like, well, then if I change this, who am I? Who am I?
It's an identification with self. So all of these views that I have been exposed to in my journey are all ideas of one. But it was not sufficient for me. Lastly, he showed that beneath this latter view was dualism, where heaven and earth and all such opposites played out their dance without even ever touching each other. The fifth, never the twain shall meet. Very common atheism, or lots of different versions of this we talk about. So the fifth, they're opposites, they're disconnected, without ever touching each other. I should add that he was able to show the way each of these assertions about the one could be denied. There we go. Now we have 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, in those hypotheses, there's no denial of the first, the one beyond predicates. So maybe we could add that. What would be the denial of self? Could that be the pathologos, in essence? And in fact, any hypothesis other than the first, if you identify self with it, could be an expression of the pathologos. Just as the one self, you could say, stands as the, ruler, blackboard. So we've been looking at the causes as we've been going. And just as we talked about today, there is the first hypothesis that stands above the others. And then there's the 2, 3, 4, 5, and its reflections in 6, 7, 8, 9. But also we can apply these to what we've been doing about causes. Notice the 4 causes, when you want to understand anything. Why does the house exist? Because there are bricks. No. Okay, why does the house exist? Because there is the activity of building to make the house. No. The house exists because there was a builder. No. It exists because there are blueprints. I guess so. All of them together. But Billy living in the house stands above. So that's the true ruler. So we've applied this to souls. We had a quick breakdown of the highest kind of the soul, the philosopher king or queen, Penelope in the Odyssey. And all of these different kinds of lesser versions of souls, the timocratic, fame, honor seeking, oligarchic, wealth seeking, democratic, nothing is anything, going with the wind, liberal, not making an opinion, maybe this side gets voted in, maybe this side gets voted in, who knows, who cares, and tyrannical, fascism. All of these are hierarchically arranged in a diminishing way, but the ruler, the leader, has to be the one who understands all of them. Ain't no tyrant gonna understand the philosopher king, but the philosopher king or queen can understand their others. So this has to rule from a transcendent. Doesn't matter. Hey, we've talked about the 9th oxherding picture would be up here. The first hypothesis, or the 9th oxherding picture. Transcendent, the changes and dramas, the flowing of rivers of this movement, and the blossoming of flowers. It's not just a movement that goes on forever, but there is a developmental process of living things like humans or cultures or species blossom like flowers. There's growth, there's development, there is an ideal they could reach. Is all happening under here, but not affecting the transcendent ruler. For us to have a successful society or a healthy society, we need some philosopher king, which is nothing other than someone who has the knowledge of the ideal, the understanding of its parts, and is using it to benefit the subjects according to the idea of justice, which we've seen is apprehended in that knowledge experience, helping all those who are playing to reach themselves to become like, reach the stage of, or become like the ruler. To learn to know the self. Self-mastery. So that would be a just society, ruled by the best of us. Currently, we're in a world ruled by tyranny, the absolute worst on the list. Tyrants. The establishment left, who are not making any decisions, the coward, spineless, left-wing, democratic soul, setting the stage for them. The oligarchs jumping on board too, aren't they? And the warmongers all getting on board with the tyrant. And who do they go after? Who are they shooting in the face on the streets? People who are trying to reason and make a better world. It's an inverse. We're seeing, so we are ourselves as a species seeing the implications if we don't understand. Hierarchically with the dialectic. So, standing above. Why were we talking about a ruler that stands above transcendently? Oh, right. So, we're talking about that because if this is the first hypothesis, standing above these, this is the true idea of self, and all of these are various different experiences in a developmental model of the self. The self's reflection in being, its functioning and understanding, its distortion in belief, giving humans what they need to address their problems, as shitty as it is to have your own problems, or to face a world with religion doing its terrible shit, politicians doing its terrible shit, capitalists doing its terrible shit, World War I and II, Nazis doing their shit. It's necessary, as we've been seeing, for the unfolding and the unfolding of the rivers, flowing of the rivers, and the development of the human blossoming, because that's where we get our false ideas of the self that we can address through the dialectic, which we're here to master. So all of those are under that. So if we were to reject or deny the one self, we could have the pathologos as the 10th hypothesis, and the 6, 7, 8, and 9 could be different expressions of the pathologos. Actually, the pathologos would incorporate all of these if you identify with it. So the pathologos is a kind of belief. It goes against your own development. So it's a kind of anti-ruler. It's way down the bottom and applies to any stage of development to the true self that blocks you. So that could be the 10th hypothesis we can add in, as Socrates told us to do. So let's go back. So the 5 and its denials, including the one we have to add. Did you just make the connection between the gap and its timeless nature, says Jesus? Did the idea of the gap become a mean term for what you sought? If there are Parmenides' hypotheses, could you state it again more fully? Just read that. Oh, we did. Okay. He wants to another repetition, which is a theme, by the way, in making your own mythologies or films. Yes, the insight into the gap stayed with me for a long time. Timeless. Time Lords. I came to realize that the assumptions we make about time and motion and rest clearly presuppose the second hypothesis. So, we talked about the negative hypotheses presupposing the positive, so you can make that jump that way. But now he's making an upward jump. Hey, if there's an expression or an experience of time and motion, that presupposes the transcendental state of being in mind. So there's an upward movement again. So not from the negative to its corresponding opposite, but from 5th to 4th to 3rd to 2nd. The upward movement or anagogic movement. With another steps, I was able to see that this second hypothesis can be seen in turn as necessitating the categories of the first hypothesis. So that there are categories in the first hypothesis. There is an inherent logos, even if it transcends experience. Or everything that we've been applying words to up until now necessitates a different use of logos. Simply stated simply on reflection, it can be seen that the idea of the one, pure being, and the soul, 1, 2, and 3, form a triad, and it is this threesome. Ooh. Come on now.
You have severe mental illness, and you need to be fucking checked into an insane asylum.
I know.
Why can't these guys shut up, whether or not it's about Jesus?
Sorry, I'll shut up. This threesome are called the first 3 hypotheses. So there we go. So I was inferring, but that's part of it as well. You create a hypothesis. So you look for the questions, create a hypothesis using the dialectic, and you see if it's confirmed in the text as you read. The first 3, the triad, the one self, being, and the soul. Or the one self, the brilliant light of being, and it's functioning providentially through the gap. Or the one self beyond all predicates, its reflection into mind, which is the highest predicates, beauty, truth, intelligible reality, the paradigm of all change. And then it's functioning using all of those things together to create each moment of time. That also gives us what we need for our own development, should we pay attention, which is what we're doing here. Hooray for us. We are...
Win, 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 win.
Win, 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 win. We're always winning. Cool as a cuke.
Cool as a cuke.
And making our heads...
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
Filled with secrets. The idea of being is the notion we have called ousia. That's that key word we've been saying that doesn't exist for Mr. Nolan. And it is in the One Balboa translation. And Pierre, of course, knows it. He's writing this. And it's a key word, one of those key words. And we said, hey, by the way, ousia is the experience of being, or the idea, experience of being, mind turning around to know itself, mind minding mind, as described in the ox herding picture 8. Seeker of the ox, rope used to tame the ox, and the ox itself. So the seeker, the activity, and the thing being sucked, sucked, seeked, all becomes a oneness. That's Usia. That's what we're doing here as well. So the manifestation of Usia in time is learning about yourself. The method, dialectic. So the structure of how you reflect on yourself is the dialectic. That can also be applied to the map of your development as you apply that, which is the functioning in time of the inherent Usia of pure intelligence of being. So Usia is the key word. It is the major idea in both the second and third hypothesis. So that's what I just said. So what do they call that? Pre-watching, pre-stream, or prophecy? No, it's not. It's well, some people have prophecy and do that, but confirming our hypotheses in the text. Going over these ideas is contemplation. It's a spiritual method, and the most so what we're doing. This whole stream pretty much has been contemplation or spiritual yoga. Although the word spiritual, I hope, has been demystified because we have a map now and it's understandable. And the scary mystical traditions of the East, we've got their highest logos or map, the oxherding picture. We've noticed that there are certain key terms missing and we've added the logos to it. So we've made it more intelligible. So not a scary thing distant from us. It's something that we can understand and actually improve upon a little bit simply by adding the dialectic to it. So yes, contemplation or spiritual yoga. And the more sincerely entered into, the more sincerely you enter into this contemplation, the more it becomes the soul's preparation for vision. Once again, calling my shots and swishing the 3. I'm not going to throw this at my computer because all my USB things will fall out. So yes, as I just said, spiritual yoga or the soul's preparation for the higher experiences. Or as Socrates put it, the musician reaches out to something beyond himself and is touched by it, so long as, I don't know, he's been preparing himself, I guess. The other hypotheses are as I have noted. So your reflection, says Jesus, created the conditions for your search, and the search brought you to practice, the practice of mind coming to know the mind. I like that because it is contemplation that begins and ends in a true philosophy. And it is that which culminates in vision. So the idea of true philosophy again, the idea of the method, contemplation, mind knowing mind, or the 8th ox, or the second hypothesis, and it is that which culminates in vision. Notice that it includes all the ways mind communicates to us. So there's lots of ways mind communicates, well, always, because it's the gap. Your thoughts, your reflections, your choice of goals, your blocks, your image of yourself, the kinds of relationships you're attracted to, how those relationships play out, your fantasies that play out, the tangents when you're trying to focus on things, and especially your dreams. All possible ways. Oh, and epochs, world wars, who rules us as in humanity. All of them are ways mind communicates to us. Our job is to look for the logos and how the logos is teaching us about the pathologos. We said last time there are 2 questions you can ever ask. Where are you at and where you're stuck? What's your vision and understanding and ability to communicate through the dialectic of self, or oneself? And what's your vision and understanding and ability to communicate your pathologos? So your mastery of midwifery and removing pathologos, and how far through your own midwifery are you going? Now you can say, well, there's actually a 3rd question you can ask, dreams. But actually that's about the same 2 questions. There's a 4th you can ask, giving us the 4 aspects of the dialectic. How is your myth making? How many points do you have on the back end of the new movie, The Odyssey, that you are working on? But again, even that is a analogical representation of those 2 questions. and doing your best to be a master filmmaker like the Dream Master. Notice, yes, it includes all the way mind communicates to us. I do enjoy the way you're bringing that all together into a unity. Thanks. No, Jesus. Thank you. Dramatic zoom. Pose.
No, you're not the one that's mentally unwell. You're brave. You are crossing into bounds.
So, how are we for time? Yeah, we're doing pretty good. So, maybe we'll call it there. Lots of bits of information, lots of very rich bunch of banger paragraphs today. Seen a lot today, reflected a lot on the hypotheses we've been nailing down, how it relates to the oxiding picture, and how the mean between each of them is the dialectic. We are understanding the hypotheses because we are seeing the dialectic structure it reflects. It's simply a dialectic on all kinds of ones. Oh, that are then applied to the self. We're also seeing that the method of understanding the oxiding picture that Socrates gave us, what's encountered, state of mind, function, and conclusion, happens to be the dialectic too. By relating the oxiding pictures as experiences that a soul has as they go through their development to the dialectic of Parmenides, we're not just understanding each part by applying the dialectic to it, we're understanding the whole of the oxherding pictures by applying the dialectic to it. So the dialectic is the mean. It's the method. It's the thing we're here to learn. It's the use of ousia, self-reflection, and logos, the two things that we have access to as this stage of evolution, making us more evolved than cabbages, cows, and caterpillars. Which is interesting as all fuck, because time and time again in what we've been reading, Jesus has saying, hey, is the gap and your ability to apply it to the hypotheses of Parmenides and state it through the dialectic, which is the hypotheses, is that the mean term for you, for your learning? I think he said the word mean term several times. Let's actually do a search. Mean. Did the idea of the gap become a mean term for you to understand? Put that in pink. The mean term. What's the gap? The providential or intelligent intelligence and care functioning of self and mind. At all times, remember? Thoughts, fantasies, distractions, drama, people you're attracted to, dreams. But we're completely ignorant to it. Oh, in war, government stuff, politics stuff. We're completely ignorant to the messages that self and mind are screaming at us, so long as we, well, not screaming, I think it would be serene because it's giving us everything we need. It's waiting for us to develop. The way of hearing or listening is the dialectic, which is the definition of the third hypothesis. Remember, self, mind, and soul is the threesome. Ooh.
You have severe mental illness, and you need to be fucking checked into an insane asylum.
Insane asylum. I deserve that.
Dead-eyed, and I don't use this kind of terminology lightly, dimwits.
Dimwits. I know. I apologize.
That's anti-feminist in some way.
Oh, come on, Emma. Don't pile on. So, the third, the mean term, or the dialectic. What are we learning? The hypotheses of Parmenides. We're learning the oxherding picture, states of mind. What's the way of understanding it? How do we benefit from both of these two maps? By applying the mean term. Applying the dialectic to each of them allows us to understand it. Applying the dialectic to both of them allows us to bring it together. What's the name for the thing that brings together the extremes? be they human ignorance and our wisdom and knowing of self, or the ox-herding pictures and the hypotheses, the East and the West. This is the spiritual tradition of the West, and Buddhism, you could say, the spiritual tradition of the East. What brings them together? A mean term, the dialectic. How do we make that evolutionary movement from the fourth hypothesis, belief-based species, to participating in self and truth and reality? Understanding. What's understanding? The dialectic. It's the mean term. It's the mean term for Socrates to learn. It's the way we have been, like this is like 3 or 4 times we've taken the hypotheses of Parmenides. He's repeated it like 3 times, giving us lots and lots of opportunities to apply the dialectic to it, to understand it. That's how we benefit. How do you benefit from your dreams? If it's the greatest activity you can engage in as a human being, you've got to record it as soon as you wake up, of course, transcribe it, and apply the dialectic to it. How do you benefit from your problems? How do you escape from your problems? How do you learn what you've been born here to learn? The dialectic is midwifery that you apply to it. How have we been reading? Collecting the terms from the sections of the text and pulling them out and applying the dialectic to it. It's all dialectic, baby. What's that? Providence. What's that? The third hypothesis. What's that? The gap between each moment. What's that? The spiritual method. What is it? It's literally the activity we are born here to do, because it's the method of learning, and it's a contemplation that prepares the soul for vision. It's mind coming to know the mind. That's true philosophy. Contemplation that begins and ends in a true philosophy. So we're doing true philosophy, and at the end we have a complete understanding of true philosophy. We're able to see all the way mind communicates to us, and we can bring everything together into a unity. That's the dialectic. That's what a mean term is. That's what understanding does. And it's going over these is the soul's preparation for vision. So long as we're doing it sincerely. Are we sincerely doing it? Are we having fun? Are we having fun? This one.
I'm always good, and that is what I stand for, being good all the time.
Good all the time.
She's a moron. She's
Hey.
a bonked on the head individual, BHI.
Don't-
I coined
Don't-
that.
I don't care if you coined it. Don't call her a bonked on the head individual. Or what was it? BHI?
That's anti-feminist in some way.
Indeed, I agree with Emma. That is anti-feminist in some way.
And she spit on him also.
Wait. I having fun? Significant? Breakthrough? The mean term? Are we participating in providence? Are we learning what it means to learn? Are we learning the spiritual method? Are we learning what it means to read? And one more thing to bring it all together, it's how we read philosophy, truth, how we solve our problems, removing what's false, how we unpack the messages of our dreams through the dialectic, and finally, the email that we send to Christopher Nolan. That's how we make mythology or share it, how we function as a dialectician to share providence with others in our conversations, our reflections, the fun we have with our friends, and in the blockbuster films that we make where I get some points on the back end. It's all the dialectic, baby. Says the text. Did I mention the text is a goddamn banger? Wow. We're not even finished yet. And we got one ox herding picture to go. Where's this conversation with Jesus going? So exciting. Thanks for joining me. Feel free to donate to the channel if you want. And if you can, donate enough for us to make our own blockbuster film. That would be good.
I'm always good, and that is what I stand for, being good all the
That's
time.
what we stand for. But any contribution helps greatly to the channel. There's a link below. You can find a copy of the text we're reading below. You can follow on Twitch or YouTube, and I'll see you in the next one. And then the noise. All right, there it is. See you next time. Bye. Oh, I can't press that one. Thanks for hanging out, Reef.